Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you are all having a fabulous day. And today I wanted to have a bit of a look in the Middle East, and still looking at, these old castles, buildings and things that seem to have had some kind of destruction rained down on them. And we get things like this, and if this was in the US, this would be just or Australia, it would just be a natural, hill. It wouldn't, it'd just be called a natural formation. So, but this is in the Middle East, so that this, because there's so much history in Bible and that kind of stuff written down, they are actually admitting this is a building. And as you can see, look at these, what are they, doorways or windows? And clearly we have different levels and things up here. And so this is what I wanted to get into today, is specifically looking at old world buildings that are mentioned in the Bible, in ancient texts. So we're going to have a look at basically the earliest cities in Babylon. So we've got Uruk and Eredu, and then we'll have also a bit of a look at Sodom and Gomorrah. And this here is said to be a tomb, the tomb of Gilgamesh, and he was from the Epic of Gilgamesh, apparently the oldest book in the world. He was a demigod, and they also apparently, he was a giant, about 4 meters tall. But just looking at this, quite obviously, it's a brick structure. Okay, same bricks, and this we're going back 6,000 years, they tell us. Clearly, it's been there a while. It's old. It's very worn down. I'd say it was covered, and they've uncovered it. But yeah, a complete brick structure. Alright, so let's get in and have a look at some old Sumerian cities. Okay, so this is Eridu, Ancient History Encyclopedia. And down here it says Eredu is present-day Abu Shahrain in Iraq, was considered the first city in the world by the ancient Sumerians, and is among the most ancient of the ruins from Mesopotamia, founded in circa 5400 BCE. Eridu was thought to have been created by the gods and was home to the great god Enki, also known as by the Akkadians, who would develop from a local god of fresh water into the god of wisdom and magic, among other attributes, and stand with other deities such as Anu, Enlil, and Inanna as the most important in the Mesopotamian pantheon. Interesting there, it says that Enki would develop from a local god of fresh water. So he started off as water. And of course there's a lot of talk about water and its role in this realm recently. So Eredu, the city of Eredu, features prominently in the Sumerian mythology, not only as the first city and home of the gods, but as the locale to which the goddess Inanna travelled in order to receive the gifts of civilization, which she then, oh my God, I can't speak, which she then bestowed upon humanity from her home city of Uruk. Uruk vies with Eredu among modern scholars for the honour of the oldest city in Mesopotamia, or even the oldest city in the world. So this is obviously all to do with mainstream chronology. There's even a bit of a timeline down here. 29 BCE, probable date of the regional Great Flood. So that must have been I said 5300 back there, did I? Oh, 2300 BCE, the Eridu Genesis, the Sumerian flood story. 21 BCE, Eredu. 600 BCE, the city of Eredu is abandoned. Alright, so this is, the oldest. Now, you've probably all heard of Enki. Enki and Enlil, obviously tied to the Sumerians and the Anunnaki. and all that kind of stuff. So what does this city, it was abandoned 600 BCE, so they're saying it's been abandoned for 2,500 years. It doesn't really say. It just says Eredu was never the seat of a dynasty. Its importance was religious rather than political. As the site of the main sanctuary of Enki. Enki, the god of wisdom, featured prominently in many Mesopotamian texts, and especially in the tale of the Great Flood as told in the Atrahasis and the Eridu Genesis. Now that's all got to do with the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is of course the oldest, said to be the oldest story in the world. And he was a demigod, a half-god. And up here again, I'm just going to quickly mention, it said that the goddess Inanna travelled in order to receive the gifts of civilization. And this is a narrative that we hear over and over and over again throughout every society, religion, theosophy, philosophy, everywhere. There's always, gods or demigods who come and give us civilization. And with Mesopotamia, Sumeria, we know that was, they call it the cradle of civilization. They don't tell us it was blown up. They just say that civilization started in a desert. But it was the first place to have things like education, law, sanitization, infrastructure, government. Basically the basis of our society and all the control systems. And, you hear the same story in South America, and the people who in South America who came and gave the information are also known as the Shining Ones, which is interesting. Like they had an inner glow. So this electricity thing too, L is obviously Elohim, electricity. There's something going on there. But I just wanted to mention that the civilization seems to have been given to us. But was that a good thing? This is Eredu. This is what they tell us Eredu is. This is the city of Eredu. Abandoned 2,500 years ago, or so they say. And look at this place. We have bricks. Paving on the ground. Bits of bricks everywhere. Down the front here, you'll see it looks like something sunken down. Something may have collapsed there. This big sort of line running along. Bit of a mound there. And then we just have this. Look at that. Complete doorway. Doorway down here with, what pretty straight kind of level on top of it. Another doorway, and here you can see it looks like whatever's come over, whatever this is, facade, melted, whatever, brick, rock, cement, has been chipped off, and underneath looks like brick. This is as far as I can get in on this photo, but you can see the lines. It just looks like that look that we see of collapsed brick. This looks clearly melted. Look at the holes everywhere. Look at that doorway, come on. So this is Eredu, and this, look at that. So this is, this line between what is natural and what is the remnants of the old world is getting very, very blurred. Because you can imagine this in any other place where we'd be told that was a natural formation. This is our archaeological site who went out to look at Eredu, and this is Eredu, guys. And this is the thing. Same with Egypt, Sumeria, all these cradles of civilization. This is what they look like now. Completely just smashed. Nothing there. No vegetation. And all the remnants of the cities. Look at that. Look at the square angles. And just no vegetation. So you can imagine when this would have looked very, very, very different back in the day. And there we go. That's the city of Eredu. Look at all this scattered stone everywhere. And this we see everywhere. And they just sort of I don't know, geology just try and tell us, oh, it's bits of the mountain have broken off over time through wear and tear. Look at this, you can see there's an outer wall and all the sand's built up on it here. That looks like a big hunk of bricks and things, and obviously structures in the middle there. And obviously structures in the middle there. Here, look at this, red bricks. Bit of a brick wall sticking out, looks like it comes down here. Of course, completely buried. And this does not explain at all the flooding that we see in cities, because it doesn't obviously. But out in the deserts, where they've completely obliterated things, and you get these broken down, smashed, melted buildings, castles, because they've destroyed all the vegetation with something like napalm. All the sands just blow up and just stack up around these, and basically bury these structures. So that's how you could explain these desert ones being buried, but it doesn't at all explain so many other things we see around the world. I mean, look at this landscape, and that must be Eredu there, just sticking up, just nothing. Go, more brick walls, bits are collapsed in. So these are buildings, guys. Look at this. There's bricks everywhere. You see bits here. I can't zoom in on that, I don't think. Let's have a look. Let me zoom. No. But yeah, you can see clearly this is all brick. These are all man-made. These are all angled, right-angled bits of brick or stone, and that looks a lot like a brick wall. Look at that. I mean, you want proof this is a buried city, buried buildings? Look at that. Red brick just sticking out the side of a big hill. Looks like we've got some camels here, but again, just, why would you start the world's first civilization in this barren place? Because it wasn't barren. Wow, steps. A bit of a wall here. So I don't know, maybe they're not steps, but they're part of something. They're definitely man-made bricks. And so I don't know, was this a lot bigger and just completely destroyed, or are we looking at the very top of a really big buried building? Who knows? There's that shot again, look at that. And more red brick. All the way around. Completely buried. And as I said before, if this was in another place, we'd just be told it was just some natural formation, or, they just explain away this brick, oh, there was some old house there in the 1800s, and it, for some reason they built in the middle of the desert for no reason, and of course they couldn't live, so they left. I mean, that's really the kind of stories we get for these things, but so what are they? Because obviously with this, because it's in the Bible, people started hunting for it. And there's, clues to its location, and they found it, and they started digging, and they found the structure. So that one's hard for the powers that want to be to deny. But with all these other ones that aren't, necessarily linked to books, it's hard. They just explain it away as much, much more recent than it actually is. And this is Uruk. And as you can see, it's the same story. I mean, this is clearly the base of a man-made, or the top. Who knows how deep that goes? Man-made. Look at how flat this wall here is. And these are clearly, you can just see different levels all the way through there. But again, we would be told this was a natural structure anywhere else in the world. But look at that. That's a melted city. And like I said, because it's in the desert, it's had a lot of dirt blow in on the top and really sort of buried into mounds. But yeah, that's Uruk. Here it is again. And the same kind of deal, you know, just flat, barren wasteland because it's been hit with something. And I mean, it's a big, big, big area. They got taken out, and we've just got this big, you know, structure just out of nowhere. And these are all over the world. And geology, you know, tries to explain them away as, I don't know. They have weird explanations, you know. They say something like, oh, this was the hard rock. And so, you know, the level, what used to be up here, and all the soft stuff, you know, sort of got washed away with weathering. You know, that's a common story here. But I mean, how high was the bloody land level? Doesn't make sense. Got lots of walls around here, and just, I mean, is this a canal? The remnants of a canal? This is an artist's impression of what Uruk used to look like in the heyday. And as you can see, very familiar. And as I've mentioned in other videos, if you look at this center building, in the old world, everything was actually covered in colour. So we see everything today stripped back to this cement or limestone looking thing, but it was actually all very colourful back in the day. And here are some more images of Uruk, as we can see, completely covered. Walls in the ground, big structure here. Again. And you can see, I mean, just look at this, how the structure of this, it's clearly, you know, that's, you know, we've seen the bricks buried, so we know this is brick, but that doesn't look like brick. So what's happening here? Is this had a covering that's melted over? It has, but because we see, like in that shot before, you could see that, you know, the facade had cracked off and it looked like there were bricks underneath. So is this a melted facade? Because it doesn't look red, does it? And that's the thing, you know, we don't really know exactly what's going on here. Obviously something big, some big destruction. You know, rain down from above, fire and brimstone. I mean, how do you get sulfur to rain down? Where does sulfur come from, I wonder? Volcanoes? But yeah, here it is again. Look at this, doorways, windows going, and that's clearly a structure. You can see the different levels. You can see stairways. Yes. This is the remnants of a temple, is what they say. And as we can see, this is clearly brick, including the columns. And here, you know, down at the bottom again, you see this sort of facade that looks like there's something on there. But all here it's been, you know, blown out by the wind and a bit destroyed. And obviously there was a lot more there at some point. And this is, this is known, marked as a ziggurat. And you can pretty much see it is. I mean, look at these doorways. And that's a clear level. And we've got other levels up here. But this is big right angle. Marked as a ziggurat. And this is a thing, I guess, in the Middle East. You know, with a lot of these old buildings, like I said, they're all mentioned, a lot of them, in texts and biblical texts and things. So people go searching for them. And so they kind of have to admit that they are buildings. But in other places in the world, you'd see something exactly the same as this. And they would say, no, that's just a natural formation. And I showed this in my last video, but this is... I'm not sure which one it is, but it's either Sodom or Gomorrah. That's not the best resolution pick. Here's another one. So it's the exact same thing that we see everywhere. And look at this massive cliff in the background. I mean, is that part of this? What was that? Now, how big were these buildings? But you can see clearly, you know, buried, top sticking out. Same thing here. This one shows, this is sulfur. And you can see this, you know, I mean, I don't know, is this pancaking maybe? I mean, it's pretty, you know, micro pancaking, but who knows what that is. That could be a brick layer, I don't know, mortar, but it's that same sort of striation look that we get everywhere. But yeah, there you go. 1-2 bits of sulfur embedded in probably a building here, the side of a building. So sulfur, fire, you know, this is what we're told, fire and brimstone, sulfur raining down from above. And there it is. You actually see this all over Sodom and Gomorrah. There's sulfur rocks embedded everywhere. And Conspiracies R Us did a really good video. Just released it the other day, two or 3 days ago, and the name escapes me. I'll leave the link below. But he talks about how he's been finding iron, like iron balls around a lot of these places as well. So maybe that's got something to do with it as well. I just thought I'd mention. And, you know, with the iron balls that Conspiracies R Us talks about, you know, I'm in Australia, I'm in WA, and literally our bush is, it's what we call bauxite. It's literally just balls. It's covered in balls, and that they're iron. You hit them and they crack in half, and they're blue metal inside. So, you know, WA is covered in little iron balls. And I never really thought about it until I watched that video. So, interesting. Here's another pic, Sodom and Gomorrah, and again, this whole thing of, you know, the cliffs. You know, look at that. That's actually, they're saying this is Sodom and Gomorrah. So there you go. Anywhere else, that would be a cliff, just natural. Give you a bigger look. Not the best, but yeah, there you go. Sodom and Gomorrah, exactly the same look as Uruk. And again, look at the size of these mountains in the back, because we get these, and the more you look at these, the more they look like buildings. So we get this in the front, but look at this in the background. It's pretty huge. We get these sort of, see, we've got 1, 2, 3. And they're kind of these bits going into this bigger main structure. There's almost another one here. Then we have this line across here, a plateau, and then clearly it's been raised up, and we have this raised bit, which looks like it's several bits. So, you know, is that a massive building as well? You know, was this older? You know, was this when people were bigger? Or were big and little people together? I mean, who knows? But yeah, this is it. That is Sodom and Gomorrah. And here we are on Google Earth. And this is Eredu. I'm only just looking at that, you can almost see a big sort of circumference, border, circuit on the outside. And then, that's that's clearly a city. Look at all the, look at that. It's a grid city. And it's interesting too, isn't it? Because a lot of these old worlds are a lot more grid-like, where you see the new stuff in the cities, the old sort of, the winding roads that are still being used, and they're all not square. They're all curvy and higgledy-piggledy. But yeah, this is it. Clearly, just structures everywhere. But when we come up here, look at this place. There's nothing. Clearly remnants of, there was water, there's still a big river going through here, but you know, this is the Tigris and Euphrates, kind of those. But look at this area. And there is debate whether deserts are natural or man-made. Oh, and look at that, what have we got here? Oh, there's another. Okay, this is something they've turned into an airport. Wow, look at all the stuff in the ground there. It's crazy. You see all these lines? Everywhere, look at all these. So again, it looks like they've been building on top of an old grid system. And is that because it's some kind of circuit? And out here we have, oh, look at that, another old city that's buried in the ground. Look at that one, that's pretty cool. Look at that. Wow, that's quite big. That whole area. And look at this, we've got bits out here. All these old buildings have courtyards in them too, by the way, if you haven't noticed. And you'll see if you look at old pictures that are, called Greek and Roman, they always have the courtyards. But look at this huge structure buried in the ground. And, I mean, that's probably just the bottom of something, because look out here, whatever was here, just completely destroyed. All we can see is the foundations. And again, look how it's laid out. We've got these squares. Down here, square, a bit coming off, bit coming off. It just does look circuit boardy, doesn't it? It's all through here. So there we go. Oh my gosh. Is that a W for water? Or is that... I think it's water. So yeah, it just looks like they built on top of old grids. Okay, now this is what I wanted to show you. Now, can you see that? So again, Conspiracies R Us. He was in his latest video, he was talking about it, and again, it's escaped me what it's actually called. But it's basically the phenomena of what you get when electricity or lightning strikes something, and of course the energy runs out to try and ground itself, and you get these patterns that look very similar to this. So see this, they've connected up electricity to wood, and you can see when it arcs, it makes these patterns. It's a pretty familiar pattern, and we see this, because everything's a fractal, right? We see it everywhere. It kind of looks like the alveoli of the lungs. It looks like, algae in different plants growing. But this, so we got positive, negative, connected in, and when it arcs, you get this. I mean, they're not the best pictures, those ones. But you sort of get the general idea. See, and we just get these like that. People actually make art with it on wood. But so you get this, so when you can imagine when lightning or something, or a big amount of plasma discharge or electricity hits a place, it then goes tss and sparks out across the ground, and we get these patterns that kind of look like that. You see how that's all sort of sparking out, all these different veins going everywhere. So is this what happened? That's not the best. Conspiracies R Us showed some really good ones in North America. But this whole place, this is the cradle of civilization. But there's nothing here but destruction. And as you can see, look at this. This is surrounded by water. That should be pretty good land, but it's just been obliterated. This has just been white. This is just sand. But of course there's bits sticking out of it. Like these big walls with right angles. And there's another right angle there. So what's under all this stuff? We get these funny walls and ridge lines, and I guess that's a bit of agriculture. But this doesn't make. This has definitely been hit with something. It doesn't make sense that people would even go here to try and live, let alone it be the cradle of civilization. Okay, so here we are. We're now in Iraq. And this is Mount Sodom. And look at this one. See this big sort of arcing pattern that looks like a big energy discharge. And you can see that is absolutely huge. So what's happened here? Is that the cause of this destruction? Or is that, like a scar left by this destruction? And see how it's raised? It's like it's hit, and all the water in the ground has just instantly expanded to gas, and it's just gone and just pushed up all this land into this shape. And this, they say, oh gosh, they're not going to let us see a lot, I don't think. Bitchute. Come on, let's see if we get more. Oh, that was Mount Sodom. No, that's going to take us somewhere else. Oh my God, there's Sodoms everywhere. Why would you rename a place Sodom? I always like to check these places out that are named the same, because they're very often, you just very often get taken to some old world place you've never heard of. Sodom. What is this place? It's just a little town called Sodom. Oh God, the House of Sodom in the Netherlands. Okay. Let's see if we can find Gomorrah. But as you can see, there's a bit of a pic there, as we saw before. It's saying it's not understanding Gomorrah. How do you spell Gomorrah? No, it's not going to show us Gomorrah. It can't find it. It's sort of saying it's the same place, but as you can see, Google don't want us to see what's down there. But again, as you can see, just complete destruction. You know, there were old world cities here, you know, near the ocean. You know, it should be a good place, but it's just completely just being destroyed. And we have this big arc down here, this big electric pattern, and smaller ones in there. So is this what's going on? It'd be interesting if to see what's in the ground there. If there's iron balls, is that water or is that maybe it's been turned into farms or something? Fish farms. Looks like water. Interesting. Here's another one of these big patterns. See? So it looks like this place got hit pretty hard. You see this big veins just popping off. So if you kind of look at that, that's not the picture. That. So you can kind of see what we're trying to say there. Of course, that's not my discovery. That is Conspiracies R Us. But I think the further, you know, the more we start to look into this, we're going to see this stuff everywhere, you know. So this again begs the question, you know, what are all these, are they, because these are like the tops of mountain sort of ranges, because all the land seems to have been lifted up. So is that some kind of electric discharge, or is it natural? And you can see some kind of border around here. You know, this whole place was probably fully populated. I'm not sure. They look like ridges. Oh my God, it just looks, look at this place. What the, yeah, that looks like you're looking inside the human body. At like fat cells and skin and stuff and cut. Oh my God. That is bizarre. And see, look at all these big electric things. So is this land literally just been bubbled? Because look, it's just full of divots everywhere. And this is what we see in the Sahara, isn't it? It's just huge sand dunes, huge, and just sand. Nothing grows, and then oases popping out. And I mean, this place is just covered in them. So something that definitely needs a lot more looking at. Again, thanks Conspiracies R Us. I'll leave the link to that video below. So there you go, guys. This is a bit of a look at the old world, and just this I'll just finish off by showing you the scar, right across Africa. We get it? Right across here, the whole Middle East pretty much, and then up into Russia. Look at that. And the reason that Russia looks a little bit better up here is because it's so cold. It's covered in ice, so it does get water where these You see, the thing is, trees attract rain. Trees give off pheromones that actually attract rain. So when you wipe out all the trees, there's nothing to attract the clouds and the rain to come back, which is a problem. This is why deserts stay like deserts. So are they man-made? So we've got this massive sky, and we get them as well, of course, Australia. Look at that, the whole continent got taken out. And in South America, we have this whole big strip down here. And then we have in North America around here, sort of Grand Canyon and, you know, Nevada and all those kind of places out in the desert. So yeah, and we're told this was all those cities were sort of 5,000-6,000 years ago. The first cities on Earth built in, you know, they never tell us that they built them in rainforests or really nice places, do they? They tell us, they try and tell us that the environment was exactly the same 6,000 years. So they do actually try and tell us that these people went out and started the world's first civilizations in the middle of the deserts. That does not make sense at all. At all. Why would the civilization start here in the deserts when this is all green and this is all green? I mean, come on. You don't... And this is the story that we get all the time. It's like, they just sort of say, they just believe they did it. It was just, you know, lots of time and lots of people. But every story is literally, you know, like the human story is literally doing everything the hardest way possible. You know, if you look into it, that's what it is. Starting civilizations in deserts and things like this. Building with oversized blocks. You know, when you don't have the tech to handle them. You know, this is the mainstream narrative. And this is what they tell us. And it just does not make sense at all. It's getting more ridiculous by the day. And especially as we start to really get into this and work as a community. Because, guys, you know, this is a group effort, of course. You know, I'm just one of the people who talks a lot. So yeah, but I mean, obviously I get so much of my information from, you know, all you guys, everyone who's subscribed, everyone who comments, and other creators as well, other content creators. So we're all in this together, uncovering our true story. Alright, so I hope you found that interesting, guys. Thanks for spending some time with me. And I'll catch you all on the next upload. Bye for now.